Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to the program. You are watching Smart 24 TV. We drive your business. Thank you very much for deciding to join us this morning as we wind up the week. And I'm here, of course, to definitely get you up to speed to what's happening on the stock market and the different places along the financial market lines where you can put your money and make your investments for the future. Now, this show is the #1 show where you will find experts issuing, of course, knowledge about financial markets and how you, an individual out there, can be able to be part of this action. To participate, it's simple. In the show, you can visit us on our Twitter at Smart24TV or my personal handle, which is Anthony Sebale, where you can get to chat and put in your comments. You can also comment about the day's trading and what you think about the stocks, as well as what you think about the debt market and several other assets in the financial markets. The show is brought to you by Altex East Africa, your #1 private stock exchange. Now, with Altex, you can be able to buy different treasury bonds across East Africa. In particular, we're talking about bonds in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and the like. You can now be able to access these and more with your phone by simply dialing USSD code *292#. Now, when you do this, you will be able to access the market. You will not only be able to buy, but if you are holding these instruments, you can still be able to sell at your favorite interests on the secondary market there at Altex. Altex East Africa also has they also have an exchange traded fund through which you can invest in different regional equities. We're talking about companies listed on the Uganda Stock Exchange, on the Nairobi Stock Exchange, and several other private shareholder companies where you can be able to put shares and be able to benefit from that saving of yours. Altex East Africa opens at 15 minutes past the hour, 8 a.m. on the secondary market, that is on the treasury bonds, and closes at exactly 15 minutes past the hour of 3 p.m. Check them out. You won't definitely regret. Now, today is a Friday, and definitely the 28th of October. As we wind up the week, there's a mixed reaction on different markets, especially the United States market. Looking at the Thursday's trading, the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 fell on Wednesday. If you followed the stock market news from the U.S. markets. However, looking at these Wednesday trades, the days before, that is Tuesday and Monday, the indexes were on the gaining side for 3 straight days of trading from Friday, Monday, Tuesday. Quite a bullish market there on the US market. But Wednesday, we realized that kind of decline there on the US stocks. Now, Thursday had the US stocks mixed up as investors braced for another batch of tech earnings from Amazon and Apple. Of course, we are now looking at earnings from different companies as we, come into the middle of the quarter, fourth quarter, which is the last quarter of the year. The U.S. stock markets have companies, of course, issue the results from the third quarter. And just on Thursday, we witnessed Amazon and Apple. And of course, this dissected a better than expected United States GDP, or gross domestic product report. Now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, if you understand, the Dow Jones has over about 30 stocks of the biggest companies in the US market. And you're looking also at the Nasdaq, which has over about 3,000 companies, and the S&P 500 with 500 top companies. Now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average and the tech-heavy Nasdaq stock, Nasdaq Composite there, diverged with the Dow jumping more than 350 points, and the Nasdaq falling about 0.7%. So the tech companies really did have a good day of trading on Thursday with the decline of the Nasdaq. If you know about the Nasdaq, it is one that actually tracks mainly tech companies. We're talking Amazon, Facebook, Google, name it, the internet companies, different service providers, especially based in the United States. And we are seeing that after yesterday's trades, we had a decline slightly in their performance there on the stock exchange. The S&P 500, on the other hand, slightly ticked up by 0.1%. We had about 0.1% become a gain on the midday trading on the S&P 500. And on my graph here, I can see kind of a slight curve going upwards on the S&P 500, meaning it's doing quite better than most of the other stocks at the moment. Now, the stocks had rallied as of late on positive signals from the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States. Officials concerned with the pace at which the interest rate on that's the central bank rate on the United States was being increased ahead of their November meeting, as well as a slew of better than expected third quarter earnings. Now, the rally ran out of steam amid two lackluster reports from Alphabet, that's Google, as well as Microsoft, which raised concerns about slowing economic growth. The US has been on a trail of kind of trying to hike the interest rate in order to tackle inflation, just like many other economies around the world, including us here in Uganda. And kind of this has been a setback because the currency, the dollar, is really getting stronger. Much as that could sound really good, but it's not to the advantage of the American economy, as many economists have mentioned. Now, on Thursday, Facebook, which is under parent Meta Platforms, dragged down the Nasdaq as the day after it posted a second quarterly revenue decline. So Facebook was one of the other tech companies that declined in performance in terms of their third quarter earnings there that were registered. Now, the rally that came out ran out of steam because of these tech companies mainly affected the Nasdaq exchange, or rather even the Nasdaq index, the Nasdaq composite. And so we're seeing this as an indicator that there could be something that's slightly slowing the growth of the economy in the United States as well, especially in the tech companies as well. These are some of the companies that really always stand out and remain resilient despite the fact that we pass through tough economic times. But we're seeing that in this last third quarter, things were not as good at the moment as you may have wished them to be. Now, all the growth in the GDP was due to a huge swing in the net foreign trade, contributing 2.8 percentage points, while the domestic final demand rose only by about 0.5%, according to Ian Shepherdson, a chief economist at Pantheon Macroeconomics, in a statement. And so the GDP of the US bounced back a little bit in the third quarter 2020, and the US economic activity increased by about 2.6% annualized pace in the July through September period, which is a good report, but still definitely not the best we could hear. Investors also digested earnings from Ford that definitely narrowed its profit forecast for the year and took hefty charge from its autonomous driving venture Argo Artificial Intelligence, or AI. And shares of the automaker were down in early trading on Thursday. So Ford was still among some of the losers there that were registered on the Thursday trades on the US stock market. Looking currently at the US stock market, yesterday closing the day, before of course we come into today's trade, the S&P 500 had appreciated by closing of the trading at about 2.6 points, going up to 3,833.20 points, which was a 0.07% daily gain. And the Dow, which is the Dow that tracks the top 30 companies on the US market, had about 401.21 points that had gained or had been gained on the index there at the Nasdaq, at the US stock market. And that currently brings it to 32,240.32. And 1.26% was the gain they had registered on the Dow Jones. Now the Nasdaq had about 107.39 points that was shed off. That's how badly the index was affected by the Facebook, Microsoft, and other tech company, decline in their earnings. That's how bad really things were for those tech companies. And then when you look at the Russell 2000 for the smaller caps, we're looking at the Russell having appreciated about 26.35 points, closing to 1,830.68 points on the US market. And of course, the markets continue to be trading at the moment, and you can check out the US stock market live at different websites and get yourself up to speed to what's happening on the US markets. Very important to note is we must be diversifying investors, and if you're looking to become a seasoned investor, you must be willing to break the boundaries. You can be able to understand and be able to be part of the US market and definitely get to make yourself some revenue off that market without you moving to the United States. And that's definitely an update from the US market. You can visit www.smart24tv for more, and also you can check out our Twitter for more of those updates coming in from the US market. Coming back to Africa as a continent, we had several exchanges get to perform a little better than other exchanges. Nigeria, in one case, disappointed after a very significant loss there on the stock market. Looking at the index, the benchmark index for Nigeria, and this index went down by over 234.6 points on the Nigerian market, and that was a 0.52% decline that was witnessed. The biggest stock exchange in Africa, Johannesburg, still went up, continued to rally. So markets in South Africa continue to rally as the rand also gets stronger at 76.67 gain on the J203, which is the benchmark index for the performance of the top companies on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. And this was a 0.11% gain at the moment, as we can see. Looking at the Ghana Stock Exchange, the Ghana Stock Exchange lost about 0.38. Ghana has been quite stagnant based on the index and capitalization at the moment, but now we're seeing a slight decline as well, as the economy still continues to struggle against inflation in the country and several other economic problems. This was a 0.02% decline, and you look at their curve, it's kind of still slanting downwards at the moment at the Ghana Stock Exchange, counting a year-to-date loss of 11.78%, which is almost an average for most of the stocks in Africa at the moment. Currently, their GSE, which is the Ghana Stock Exchange Consumer Index, Consumer Price Index, they're kind of stabilized at 2,460.65 as well. The Nairobi markets also rallied at 0.95 gain in their all-share index, and this was a 0.74% gain that was recorded on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. And at the moment, their index is also currently standing at a loss of 22.13% on their year-to-date performance, but still kind of trying to catch up as the year winds up to see that they can get out of the ruts before the year closes. And we are very hopeful still in the Nairobi markets as they continue to still rally throughout the day. Let's have a look at the Uganda Stock Exchange and get to analyze and see what happened on our domestic exchange here in Uganda. Of course, I know you're very interested in this exchange because it's home, and definitely you are one of the future investors, or are one of the investors in one of these companies that are definitely making money or making losses on the stock exchange. Looking at the daily trades here at the Uganda Stock Exchange, we had close to, let's see, about 3 participants in the stock exchange trades here, and we had the day end with 3 gainers still and about 2 losers on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Now, the Uganda Stock Exchange has 18 listed companies, and for starters, not all these companies get to participate every single day in the trades, but we look at definitely the top movers being the people that were able to sell or buy shares and participate in the daily trading on the market. And on Thursday in particular, we had 3 of 18 listed companies participating in trading. However, the day ended with 3 gainers and just 2 losers, with Nation Media Group coming at the top of the gainers with a 0.95% appreciation in price. This is not a very significant change, and this being a cross-listing definitely doesn't excite that much. Also, you understand that cross-listings usually have price movements based on other factors that influencing them on their domestic exchanges or on their primary stock exchanges, and we are more interested definitely in our own stocks here at local companies that are domestically listed on the exchange, because most of the activity history tells us that is on the local companies. In the second position, we had MTN Uganda, who followed suit amongst the top gainers, coming back with the price of 183.0. Yes, trying to reclaim its position. MTN also gained a little value on its share price, closing at 183.00 Ugandan shillings, a 0.51% gain that was registered on the counter there. Equity Bank Limited gained close to 0.21% and ended the day with a price of 470.29 Ugandan shillings as well, being one of the top 3 gainers there on the market. On the losing side, we still had 2 losers. Centum coming at the bottom, further going down below the 280 mark to 266.70 Ugandan shillings at a 1.62% decline that was registered on the market. The Jubilee Holdings Limited company lost about 1.17% as well, closing at 7,304.26 Ugandan shillings there on the stock market. Now, if you are looking at the stock market, definitely some of these things are important for you to understand who is gaining and who is not, because we understand that gaining or losing on the stock market depends on how much demand is placed on a particular stock. So the top gainers give us those people that probably had appreciation or addition in value on their stock prices, and this indicates addition, probably demand for these shares sometimes, and mainly this has been seen on the local companies here at the Uganda Stock Exchange. But also we could have probably some speculation about what the company is expected, what is expected of the company in the near future. Maybe people are overlooking a dividend, or rather are looking out for what the company dividend policy has always been, and probably expecting some earnings from the company, which could drive people to buy shares into the company. So these are some of the things that definitely matter to you and me if we are to become ardent investors in the market. Looking at the All-Share Index, which is the benchmark for performance on the Uganda Stock Exchange, the benchmark index, which is the All-Share Index, inched up about 1.07 points, and that was a 0.12%, closing at 1,260.55 points, representing a 1-week gain of 0.48%. and a 4-week gain of 0.59%. Still pretty much better performance in weekly and monthly performance on the OSHA index, which is a good thing, meaning on average at least our markets must have done better basing on their weekly and monthly performance schedules. And the year-to-date is still quite on the losing side, about 11.27%, which we still have to catch up with at the moment as we come into the end of the year and close the fourth quarter as well. The USE Local Company Index also went up after increasing by about 0.29% and to reach 271.77 points. And they closed making a weekly gain of about 0.14% and a year-to-date loss of 16.29% on the local companies. This was due to a much better performance which was put up by MTN Uganda, coming in as a top gainer and one of the top movers as well. And this definitely rubbed off to the local company index, which appreciated in value for the first day, rather the second day, I think, in this particular week as we wind up the trades for this particular week. Looking at other companies on the stock exchange, you remember we have 18 companies. Several of them are domestic, others are founded elsewhere but still have branches here and are cross-listed. And the Bank of Baroda currently is trading at 85 shillings and hasn't changed much. Stanbic Bank, let's see, Stanbic should have had some, yes, it was among the top movers with a good trade there at 22,000, outcompeting most of the financial institutions that are listed on the exchange. Wumeme also maintained its trades on the market at a 35,000 shares mark there as well. The Uganda Clays Limited didn't have any trades, but currently still trades at 15.0 Ugandan shillings. And looking at DFCU Bank at 545.0, Cipla Quality Chemical Industries at 68.59 Ugandan shillings, and Centum Investments at 266.70. These are some of the companies that still stand out on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Now, how do you get to participate in trading and how does it benefit you? Well, quite simple. Open yourself a Securities Central Depository. Now, this SCD account will help you access the market, and you don't have to travel to the USE offices or whatsoever. You only have to open the account and make yourself comfortable. Get to open that account and start trading on the Uganda Stock Exchange. We're going to take a quick breather, and when we return, we wind up the markets in Uganda and still cross over to Nairobi and give you what happened on the Nairobi markets. We'll be right back. Stay with us.